So this is probably a longer episode, and I thought that, instead of just putting on music and editing it for like an hour, just putting it together, I thought I'd just add in a little bit of talking for like what my plans are for this, and why exactly I'm doing it, because it's really weird to just be doing these giant versions of Cuphead bosses. That's at least how I see it, for no reason. But it's late right now, so I gotta be kind of quiet. And it's been a while since I've had time to build another one of these, because school has to happen. But who cares about school? School isn't important. No, that's a lie. School is very, very important. Do homework. You should be doing homework if you have school. I definitely do not. I put that off until very late. And so, so why am I building all these Cuphead bosses again? Well, when I was in middle school, probably, or maybe early high school, I just was really excited with the Cuphead games, and I was like, wow, these bosses look really cool. What if I built a full-size version of them in Minecraft? Just take two of the coolest things that I like, these crazy awesome designs, because I was always a fan of old-fashioned games and styles. And I did that, and it worked out. I got all the way up from, I built every boss on Inkwell Isle 1. I finished all the bosses on 2, almost. I got up to the point of the Phantom Express and the Ghost Train, and I was like, wow, this looks awesome. And I almost never used commands, because it's not because I won't use commands, it's because I have no clue how to use commands. Commands are so confusing to me. I'm not a traditional, but if I could use the commands, I definitely would, but I have no idea how to use them. And I don't feel like learning how. I actually like the relaxing building block by block. So I started building. I built the entire Phantom Express. I was at the point where I had finished the Ghost, and I was now building the skeleton boss. But the problem was my computer. I just could not get anything to work. It was working. It was so slow, and there was so many restrictions put onto it, and I couldn't do any schoolwork at all. I couldn't do any work at all. And so I just reset the whole thing, and in the process, I forgot to back up my Minecraft worlds onto an external hard drive, like a USB. And I ended up deleting everything permanently. There was no way to get them back at all, which was really disappointing. And after that, I kind of lost interest in Minecraft for a while, because, all that hard work down the drain, just lost everything. Months of hard work, especially. What I was most sad about was the Hildeberg. I had decided to build her in the final boss Moon phase, which was insanely difficult, because in the sheer size of her in that form was just, it took me probably over a week to build completely. And it looked absolutely phenomenal, and I'm gonna rebuild it as soon as I'm done with Ribby and Croaks, which is this video right here, and Cagney Carnation, which is, oh boy, Cagney was not a very fun one. She was Cagney Carnation is a difficult boss to make with different angles. I might go for a different phase this time. In the first one, I decided to do the mid-phase transition between the first and second phase, where Cagney grabbing the side of her petals and pulling them, and then right as she's transitioning to the second phase, I might just do the second phase, because the second phase is pretty cool. And get some water. But yeah, and so once all those worlds were deleted, I just did not have any motivation to do it again. But this year I was like, hey, I have time. It's not as if applying to college is just gonna take up that much time. Oh boy, was I wrong for that. colleges are gonna take up a lot of time, but I'm still gonna try to build these. And yeah, to be honest, this build right here that I'm making, right here, this one is Ribby, the shorter frog. It was a little bit more disappointing than I had envisioned. You saw at the beginning, I had a lot of trouble there, starting off the legs. It kept pushing his body back behind his legs, and that's not what I was trying to do, and it took me a while to figure out how to get, like, you know, his stomach and everything lined up in the center between his legs. And yeah, I mean, he was a difficult one, but yeah, so, and right here I'm making his belt, and one big problem I had with these guys was, you'll see, they looked really weird in the end with the head specifically. My biggest problem was Croaks, the tall frog. Are they frogs or toads, actually? I don't know. You see here, like, I'm building it, the green skin tone, like a little bit farther back than I wanted to, and I think I changed that later. But with Croaks, oh my god, I didn't go for the coin slot machine phase. I went for just them standing next to each other with their fists up. And Croaks has this position where his mouth is like open in like a duck face, and it is so difficult to build. It looks horrible in the end. I tried to fix it as best as I could. I don't know how I could fix it now. I mean, if anyone has any suggestions, please give them to me, because oh boy, it does not look that good. I'm not very happy with it. But yeah, so I decided to go with the white terracotta for like a little bit more shade on Ribby's stomach, and then for Croaks I went for the white concrete instead, because it looked a little brighter in the drawing and I wanted there to be a little bit of difference. Yeah, so mostly one of the problems I had was building up the side of the back, because I think I limited myself to too small of a space. I probably should have made the base wider, and that would have given me more space to work with. But Ribby was absolutely not the problem here. It was totally Croaks. And their arms, oh boy, their arms were a whole nother issue that I had to deal with. Now, like, normally, like, the way I practice building just to try to get a little better was I went on Hypixel and I would play Build Battle every once in a while, and just see how well I could do. I usually play Pro Mode just to because I think Pro Mode is like the best for practice. You have to just go all out, all or nothing. And usually when you're making characters, like people or animals, you have to add limbs, and that is one of the hardest things to do. So you have to get like a rough mapping for the arms by like pushing them out, just running like crazy stick lines everywhere. And then you refine them afterwards, and that's what I did here later. So what I'm doing now is I'm trying to get the sort of smile, the grin that Ribby has, and he's not actually showing his teeth. He just has this like tight grin, which is really hard to do with just like white terracotta. Yeah, terracotta. And you can see that I put his smile really far back, and that bothered me a lot later, and I ended up changing it. But right here I started building up the back of the head, because I was like, okay, well, this isn't looking too bad. And again, Ribby, not the problem here. He was half decent. I'm happy to go back and change him later, but they are not my main focus. They're more of the stepping stones to get to Hildeberg. The whole goal of this project is finishing Hildeberg again, really, so I can finally get that over with, because like this thing that's been bugging me for like years now, where I was like, oh, you can go back and you can finish it, and I was like, oh, but I don't have time. I put it off because I had all this homework to do, schoolwork. I made up excuses, and to be fair, they weren't excuses, and I ended up not really doing that homework when I could have. But I thought, hey, this year, you probably got less of a workload, and so why not go ahead and rebuild it. But I found like, oh, I don't really have the motivation to rebuild it again if it's just like, if I'm just showing it to like my friends or my family, because that's I've already shown it to them and they were like, oh, that's cool. So if I just showed them it again, it wouldn't be anything new. And so I thought, oh, hey, how about I record it and make a video about it, and then I publish it to YouTube. Maybe some people will see it, maybe they'll like it, maybe they won't. But, you know, there's a lot of Minecraft fans out there, there's a lot of Cuphead fans out there, and you know what, combining games and styles is like, usually turns out pretty well, if done correctly. And so maybe I should talk a little bit about the other builds. I'm just freestyling here, I'm just sitting here and talking because I don't feel like going to bed. But yeah, the first one that I had the most fun with was Sal Sputter. Originally, when I started building him, the first time I started building these bosses, I was just going to build Sal, and then I was the potato guy, obviously. And I was like, you know, I'll build him, and then I'll move on. But then I was like, oh, well, if I build Sal, I should probably build the onion. What's the onion's name? Ollie Bulb. Their names are great. I had no idea they had names until I looked them up before I started building the bosses. And it's great. And after Ollie, I went on to Psy Carrot. That's not actually his name. His name is, what is his name? I don't remember his name, but he's commonly referred to as Psy Carrot. That's his nickname in the Cuphead community. Sort of just an agreed upon name. No one actually remembers his real name. I think I put it in the title of the video. I don't feel like looking it up. But, yeah, and actually, something new hidden here was the little radish boss. That was a DLC boss added, like a little secret mini boss added. If you don't fight Ollie Bulb, it makes the third phase significantly harder. But, you know, I added that. He was just a little mini thing. I just felt like, oh, he's so small, it won't really take too much time, I might as well add him. And so I did. And, so yeah. And then I moved on to Goopy, and yeah, as you saw in the video, he was like he was so shiny with the white blue concrete, and so I went in with some commands, the fill commands, and I just replaced his concrete with some terracotta, blue terracotta, I think, light blue terracotta, yeah. And here we are at Ribby and Croaks. So here you see I was trying to make his eyes. It's the eyes are some of the hardest things because in the game they're stylized, but you can't really get a very good look with like stairs. I tried a lot of stuff with stairs. I tried taking like some blackstone stairs and like putting them upside down to try to get like the little corner that happens, but it just did not look right. And instead I just decided to go with like full blocks, and I was like, okay, this should probably work better. And so at this point I looked back and I was like, oh boy, that mouth looks way too far back. That the entire head is like way too far back. So for a couple minutes here, it's gonna look a little ugly. You can see I'm trying to cover up the blemishes. No one can see. And so yeah, I'm just moving like the entire face, just like 2 blocks forward every single block, just because it just looked absolutely awful, and I just needed to get it to look a little bit better. And you know, from the side, I think the best angle for these two guys, for specifically Ribby, I think the best angle is looking at him from below. But for Croaks, I think the best angle is to look at him from above. And so yeah, here I'm just moving the eyes forward. I'm just trying to get a little bit of a better look. Let's see what I can do. And I could not remember. I don't know what it was. I do remember I had trouble with these bosses the first time I built them as well, but nowhere near the amount of trouble I had this time. It was, I don't know what happened, but I guess, yeah. And so here I'm trying to make the little grin that he has, and I think it came out pretty well. I think that's a pretty nice grin. you know, one thing that weirded me out was I was like, oh, I don't have to do ears for this one, and I don't think I've had to do ears for any of the other ones, but, like, usually when I'm making builds this big and, like, build battle, like, it's usually a bear, that's usually the theme, and so, bears obviously have ears, so you make, like, the fluffy little ears, but, you know, here I was like, oh, I don't have to do ears. And so now that I was done with the body, and frankly, I actually think it looks pretty okay. I wanted to make the sides a little bigger, and the arms are definitely a little bit of a problem. So here I'm just setting up a little framework for how I want it. So I want his left arm to be coming up in a punch, and I want his right arm to be coming forward towards, like, who's looking at him. If you're looking at him from the front, then you'll see on his right hand, like, the end of his glove, but if you're looking at his left hand, then you'll see the side of his glove. And I know that one thing I did differently in this build is I tried to build the gloves diagonally, and oh my god, that was such a big mistake. I should not have attempted that. And you'll see why in a minute here. But what I'm doing right here is I'm trying to get his arms to just be a little bit more textured. I didn't just want them to be one block thin, but I think I should have, yeah, I'm trying to thin it out near the end as his hand is coming, like, through to the boxing glove. And, yeah, so I'm just trying to copy the same design that I used for Goopy. You got the 3x3, and then the little, the plus sign in the middle, and then another 3x3 just to separate it. And then I was like, oh, hey, you know, it would be a good idea if I built it diagonally, because what could possibly go wrong if I tried to build diagonally? Word of advice, do not try to build diagonally if you do not know how to build diagonally, because diagonals are impossible to build with. If you have no idea how to build them, they are very complicated. And so Ribby's fists were definitely the worst problem for me. I tried to make it look like his arm was dipping lower. I think I made his arms a little too long. Maybe make them shorter, maybe make the turn from the side a little bit smaller. But I mean, if you squint really hard to the point that your eyes are almost closed, I think there's basically no problems with it. I mean, if you can't see, then nothing is possibly wrong. Obviously, that logic applies to everything. Yeah, but I spent a good while on this glove, and it just, I came back to it too because it was bothering me so much, and eventually I just went, oh, you know what, there's no way I'm fixing this, I'm just gonna back out and move on to the next one. So I think anytime soon I decided to do that. I think, yeah, I had a little bit of corner there. I'm still trying to round out the glove, and then I still have to add the thumb, which is insanely difficult to do, because with the Goopy, the thing is, he had such a big fist that I could make like a big thumb indentation in the glove, and it would be very clear that, hey, he has a very big thumb. But with Ribby, you know, he's got smaller hands, so you've got to have, yeah, so you see that little bump on the top of the right glove, that's supposed to be his thumb sticking out. And so now I start on the right glove's hand, and instead, again, I don't know what I was thinking when I was building this. Instead of just building a straight up glove, just make it go straight up, I was like, hey, I'm probably good enough to build it diagonally. It's not as if I just had a lot of trouble building another diagonal glove literally seconds ago. And so my brain, being the smart brain that it is, was like, yeah, let's build diagonally. What could possibly go wrong? Yeah, I don't seem to understand that many things can possibly go wrong, but the right glove was definitely better than the left glove. The fact that, like, at least there was a little bit of shading of the inside of the glove that I could add, and the thumb is more pronounced, so you can see it better from the side and from the front. So yeah, I tried to add a little bit of texture to the glove, just in case you went around the side, you could see it a little bit better. I should have just settled on putting down the blocks, but I was trying to thin out the glove even more. I was trying to make like a little bit of add some depth to it, and it did not look right. So I hope I added So that terracotta back, but I might have just left it. Looking back, I think for Ribby, if I go back to change him to make him look a little better, I'm gonna add some obvious protrusions from the arms, a little bit, make it a little bit more obvious where his arms are coming from, because right now they just sort of seem to just pop out of his body. And I did that for Croaks, but I did not do that for Ribby, and I was just kind of tired after all that time, and so I just moved on. And so one thing that's difficult with this build is the fact that Croaks is standing behind Ribby, which is kind of a problem because I don't know exactly where his arms are going to end up, and I don't know exactly where his legs, how far his legs and body is going to go. So I was sort of stuck here. I was like, do I just go back like 30 blocks and then build him, or do I build him to the side? And I settled on building him for the side, to the side of Ribby, because I thought, oh, you know, since I'll position him a little bit back, and he since he's so tall, he'll come from behind Ribby's left arm. My mistake here was putting their feet on the same sort of axis, I guess you would say. They're sort of all lined up, their feet, which was a pretty big problem. I did sort of settle on the foot design. I decided to go with the same thing for both of them because, you know, they're brother frogs in arms. And so, yeah, so right here I'm just setting up the leg. I'm just stretch it out, make it go a little bit taller than Ribby because Croaks' waist, I think, begins right around where Ribby's head is, if you can say that he has a head, because their heads are sort of infused with their bodies. They don't really have necks. But so yeah, so you see the leg sort of cuts off at the top of Ribby's arms, and I had a little bit of trouble trying to get a nice circular look for the base of Croaks, and I go back, I realized how to fix it. As you can see right here, oh my god, if I built it like that, he would just, his legs, it would look like he was just like squatting forward in the weirdest position. And so yeah, this build took a lot more time than any of my other builds so far, because everything up to this point was just one person. Like, you have Sal, he's basically a giant oval potato, so not that hard to build. You have Ollie, the onion, he's another circle. I mean, he's not that hard to build. The only problem with Ollie would probably be the shading that he has. It was quite difficult to get the right shade, I think, but I'm pretty sure I got it. It looks quite good. And with Side Carrot, I did have a little bit of trouble again with the shading. I couldn't decide on what kind of orange block I wanted, and I definitely don't want to do wool for any of them. I think wool looks a little too soft, and I think a lot of these bosses, the concrete is going to be used for most of them, because it's just such a colorful and well-defined block. Like it blends in with all the other color, with the other concrete blocks, and it just looks really good. Unlike terracotta, which has like this sort of rough texture to it, where it's sort of like a dirty concrete. And you know that's not the look that I was going for. Because if you look at the Cuphead bosses, the design of them looks really nice. Like they look very clean. When you draw anything, really, your colors blend well together, and terracotta does not really give off that vibe to me. And so yeah, but for the root pack, obviously I went with some, I guess, non-concrete colors because they did not look that good in concrete. Obviously, Sal being a potato, there is no good concrete block except, there is literally no good concrete block for a potato color. So I settled on oak planks, and I thought that was the best. So I actually added some buttons, which is another change from the original Sal sweater. Because I thought the buttons gave it like a nice potato feel, because you know how when you have like regular potatoes, they have all those little things on the side of the potatoes, like the little bumps that you peel off before you eat the potatoes. Yeah, those are weird, you don't eat those. But that was the idea I had with Sal, since, you know, he technically hasn't been pulled out of the ground, he literally lives in the ground. And then with Ollie, I went with, what did I go with? I'm trying to look at, yeah, I went with like a sandstone because I thought sandstone was the best for the onion. Originally I was going with white terracotta, I think, and then I tried going white concrete, and I decided on the sandstone afterwards because I thought the sandstone just looked the best because I had the different colors that I could combine the sandstone with the birch planks to give like a sort of onion-y look. Like it would look like he had different layers that you could peel. And then for Side Carrot, I think later I decided to change his design to red sandstone, which I had no idea existed, because who in the world uses red sandstone as a building block like ever? Certainly not me. I have never used red sandstone ever before, even in the original design. I think his most difficult property was his eyes, but I think those looked even better before. I was really hesitant to use banners on Side Carrot. That's another thing. Banners. I was not a fan of the banners. I wanted to keep it as much of the design as a full block as I possibly could. But eventually I just realized I had to go with banners with Side Carrot. There was no other way that I could get the look of his eyes on the sides of his body, which was just so small I could not fit it. And so yeah, back to Croaks here, who I'm building the stomach of at the moment. So in the picture that you see that I was basing him off of, his belt doesn't actually have a tie on the front like Ribby does. I don't know if it does, but I just guessed it does because, I mean, Ribby has it. Why wouldn't he? How else would you tie a belt? It wouldn't just be a straight line. There's always something in the middle to hold it together at both ends. And so I learned from Ribby, so I decided to have the stomach be a lot smaller this time, and the first thing I did was I just decided to go straight up, because Croaks is insanely tall compared to Ribby. He's like twice his height, and so I decided to just build straight up lines and then add some texture afterwards. And you'll see how much I've been alluding to how much difficulty I had with Croaks' mouth and his duck lips. Oh my god. And you'll see how much difficulty I had, how much I struggled with him. And another problem you'll see is, if you look closely, Croaks is kind of standing right next to Ribby instead of behind him. He's sort of meant to be the overlooking figure, which is not the impression I was getting from here. And so I decided, I'm gonna need to move him, but at that point I had already built the majority of the figure, and I was not willing to just rebuild the whole thing, cut it out of the video maybe, and then rebuild the whole statue again. I did not want to do that. And so instead, well, you'll see what I did. But right here, I'm just trying to get the stomach up to a good position, and one thing I did do, same mistake I made with Ribby, I put his mouth a little, except actually the opposite mistake I did with Ribby. Instead of putting his mouth too close to his eyes, I actually put it too far away from his eyes, and I had to reel it in a little, and you'll see what I mean by that in a second. So right here, I'm trying to just set up a platform for like the bottom part of his jaw as it like shuts out, it like opens. If you don't know what I mean by duck lips, if you've ever had Pringles chips or Lay's chips or like any kind of oval chip that has like a pool in the bottom, like it curves. Well, if you take two of those chips and you just with the curve pointing inwards and you just press them together, and you put them in your mouth, and don't eat them obviously, and then you basically have a thing that looks like duck lips, and because duck's beaks, it sort of resembles how duck's beaks look. But the problem with making duck lips for Croaks is that there are no white concrete stairs or slabs, and the closest thing you can get is quartz. And as you probably know, quartz does not blend very well. It's not very clean. It doesn't blend well with concrete. Quartz has defined edges. You can very clearly see where the quartz block stops and where it starts. And that is not what I wanted to do here. And I decided to keep going with concrete for better or worse. And it was at this point that I was looking at him and I was going, oh god, this face is horrifying. His mouth is like 30 feet away from his actual body, his face. And it was at that point, you can see I start moving back his mouth like another 2 blocks, just like I did with Ribby, except instead of moving it forward, I'm moving it back. It is late. I should probably be going to bed, but you know what? I have time now, and I'd rather get something done instead of just watch YouTube for half an hour and then go to bed. So instead, being super responsible, look at me. Instead of, staying up late and doing schoolwork, I'm recording voiceover for a YouTube video. I'm so responsible. You kids at home, be responsible. Do exactly what I'm doing. I'm a very good influence. Obviously, that's sarcasm. You should absolutely be doing homework. Wholesome messages, that's the only thing I spread here on this channel. Wholesome messages. Do your homework. Be good. Listen to your parents. Stuff like that. But also, no, there is no also. I mean, I was gonna say make YouTube videos, but I mean, maybe don't do that if it messes with your sleeping schedule like it does with mine. But if I wasn't having fun building these things and doing this voiceover, I would stop at this point. I'm doing it for half an hour at this point, but yeah, I'm definitely having fun. It's just a lot of fun for me building. It's a very relaxing process. I enjoy it a lot. And so at this point, he's been pushed back. I pushed his mouth back, but he still looks absolutely terrifying. Something about his face just makes it look like he's ready to just bite you, and I haven't even added teeth to him yet, so I decided to make the bottom part of his jaw a little bit smaller. And I think that fixed it a little. I think what I had to do next was lift up the top of his mouth, like at a higher angle, instead of making it dip down so low. And so here I start adding the walls of his body. And, I had a lot of trouble with the back. I don't know what happened with the back. I misplaced a block or something, but suddenly, I was really caught off guard because there was a really strange alignment with the blocks that just messed with me for 5 minutes. I was so confused what was happening. So you see, right there, I chop off that end of the box, and that confused me for the next 5 minutes. So boy, that's going to be fun to not talk about. I'm just going to go ahead and ignore that happening from now on. And so I'm just starting to build up the top of his body, and my thought process here was, okay, I'm just going to build up the walls, and then after the walls, I can start adding the head. And so, usually what I did with Ribby, with Croaks, I'm going to build out the mouth first, and then I'm going to start building the head, the curve of the head, starting from the front of his mouth, and going up to the back of his head. And with Croaks, I think his arms were actually pretty good. The one thing I did have trouble with was concrete does have a problem, and its problem is, while it's good that concrete doesn't have any well-defined edges, and so it looks really smooth when you look at it from almost any angle. The problem is when you look at it from a straight behind angle. You'll see if I back up right behind Croaks and I just look at him straight on, it looks like there's almost no corners or edges or anything, and it makes it really difficult to figure out, hey, where am I going wrong here? And so that gave me a little bit of trouble. Eventually I did figure it out, but I still think that the smooth texture of concrete and how it blends well with other concrete colors is a much better benefit than having to do terracotta. So at this point I had figured out what the problem was, and I was like, oh, okay, let's just tear down those pillars and then fix everything. And it did fix everything. I am a genius, probably the smartest person on YouTube, nay, on Earth. Quite right, quite right. Yeah, so I had added a little bit. The problem was that I had added a little bit extra on the corner of his belt that had been throwing off my builds. And so the impression that I was getting from Ribby right now was that he is kind of a fat frog. He has a kind of a gut going on. He needs to exercise a little bit more. Maybe he should go boxing. Oh wait, he's already doing that. I'm a low-key making fun of fictional game characters. That just speaks to how tired I am. So yeah, here I'm just adding a little bit of texture to the body so that it's not just by itself. I'm just thinking, okay, this looks pretty good. So add a little bit up there. Check on the other side. Just I like to make things, make sure that most things are symmetrical. Because I don't know, I probably have some small form of OCD that like makes me a little bit annoyed. It bothers me when things aren't completed when they should be. But at the same time, them not being completed gives me motivation to do other things, which is like really weird. Like I'll have a homework assignment where I just do not want to do the homework assignment, and so instead I'll go and I'll go ahead and program maybe a little bit on my games, or I'll do some homework for another class, or in this case I will record YouTube videos, and it turns out pretty well in the end. So here I'm just trying to fix that mouth, because this mouth just will probably haunt me and anyone who watches this video for the rest of their lives. This is a spooky video. It will curse you if you see that mouth again, which you will, I guarantee it. But I was just trying to add the sort of I was adding the black concrete there, just as like the hole that goes down into his throat. But so like when you look into the mouth, you'll see the black concrete and you'll see his tongue, and you'll see what I do there in a minute. But I'm looking at him and oh boy, does that look like something that's going to eat me in my sleep and haunt my dreams. And so I was just trying my best to fix it, but to be honest, I do not think that there was a cure for Ribby. I think he is cursed for the rest of his life to have that face. And so here I'm just editing out I'm just chopping off a little bit of the back, and I realized, oh no, I did not have enough headspace to like make a nice clean drop, so I'm gonna have to add a little bit more on the back. Yeah, so you can see he looks like he's a really fat frog. I'm shaking my head there because I want you to know, that I did not think that I would be doing commentary for this video. Then I looked at how long it was, and I was like, oh wow, that is longer than I expected, and I decided, hey, I thought about talking over a video instead of adding music the whole time. I mean, I'm probably gonna add music as well in the background, just because music is very relaxing. This is an ASMR video at this point. I've basically made an ASMR series, congratulations. Yay. And so I was trying to get his eyes down. I thought maybe 2 would be better, but, copy what was happening with Ribby. But the problem was, with Ribby, there was enough space between his eyes to make his eyebrows connect. But here, you can see if I tried to make his eyebrows angry at that bottom corner, it would give him a monobrow, which is not what I was looking for. So I had to figure out a way to just get him like that. And frogs do not have teeth, at least in the design that I saw. So I had to figure out a way to make his mouth look scary without making it look like he was just gonna chew you up with his gums. I think I made him look pretty scary. He definitely scares me, that is for sure. Yeah, but I had the back of his eyes, just like I did with Ribby. And I realized, oh wow, his chin is incredibly pronounced. It like points out so much. And I thought, oh, if I lower the bottom jaw some more, which again, in hindsight, was the mistake. I think the top jaw is what should have been fixed by cutting out the bottom loop down, how it dips at the top, the middle of his, middle of the top of his mouth. Then I think I could have fixed it. Maybe even made it higher, but I thought, oh, it's already too high. If you're looking at him from below, you want to be able to see his eyes. Fun fact, if you look at him from below, with the finished build, you cannot see his eyes very well. You actually have to fly up, but, you know, this world's so creative, you're meant to fly around. And so here I was just working on his eyebrows, make him look a little bit better. Where would I be without water? Probably with a raspy throat. So yeah, I am absolutely horrified at how he looks at this point. I just want to be done with his mouth. I want to move on with my life and just get to Hildeberg, because once again, Hildeberg was my crowning achievement. And to be honest, I think that Hildeberg is going to be a incredibly long video. I'm probably not going to build her in a single day. I'm probably going to take at least a couple days to build her, if not like a week. So most likely it's going to be a multi-parter, which I won't release all at once. I'm debating whether I should record it in segments as I build her and then post them as I build her. But the other problem I'm having is, you know, or the other option, I mean, is I could instead build the whole thing in segments and then release those one at a time. Because it's all about them views. No, I don't really care about the views for this. I just like that putting this project out in public helps motivate me a little. Oh, so back to what I'm actually doing here. So you can see I'm using the clone command to try to move him back, and you can see and behind Ribby. So I copy, and so from where I paste, it's gonna put the bottom left corner of his foot. So I was like, oh no, that puts him a little too far back, and so I decided to fill up this entire area, because I do not feel like breaking every single block by hand. Just fill it all with air and make it all go away, and then just repaste it, and then I can build his arms without worry. So copy it, but make sure to put it on that block, and now he is slightly more behind Ribby. Something I think I just realized was I think Ribby's back is exposed, and I might have to fix that later. But yes, right here I'm just filling up Croaks back with air. Let's just delete him from existence. There we go. He's all deleted. Yeah, Ribby's back is completely gone. I'm gonna have to rebuild that later. Okay, I'll make sure to do that before I start building Hilda. But back to what I was saying about Hilda. If you think that I should make it a multi-parter, I should like build the whole thing at once and then release it on different days, or if I should release it as I build it, put it in the comments. Tell me what you think, I guess. But if you think I should, you know, build the whole thing at once, and just put it all out in like an hour and a half long video, maybe 2 hours. It would probably take me around 2 or 3 hours to build the whole thing total, because I'm making it massive. This thing is going to be bigger than the sun, because I mean, come on, it's the moon. Everyone knows that the moon is bigger than the sun, right? Yes, I could never possibly be wrong. The moon is obviously bigger than the sun. It's just true. Whatever I say is true. That's how life works. And so here I'm just copying the same thing I did with the gloves, and I decided no more diagonals. Do not make the same mistake that you did with Ribby. Just go for a normal glove. Make the gloves normal, then you can add some shading. It won't be that bad. But I had a lot less space to work with because their character models are a lot smaller than Goopy will grow on. So you can say I had a little bit of trouble with it, but it's a lot easier now to add thumbs and make it more pronounced as to where the different parts of the hand are. Hand? What kind of body part do frogs have? I don't know. Let me think about this. Flippers? wrappers. I don't know what they have. Anywho. Yeah, so I move on to the second glove. I will reset the framework for the arms. I'm going to go back and, I just decided to go for just your old, normal glove. That's how I build it. I'm never going to try to make diagonal gloves again. I don't think there's another character in this game that has boxing gloves. It's really weird, actually. What a coincidence that two characters in this game, two separate characters, have boxing gloves in their designs. That is a very strange coincidence. You've got Goopy and you've got Ribby and Croaks. So here I've made the designs. I'm going back into the arms, and I just wanted to improve it, make it a little bit better. First I wanted to change the glove. I wanted to move it a little bit back so that I could widen up the design, make it look a little bit smoother and rounder. Ooh. Coming near to the end of the video. It's already been 40 minutes of me talking. Wow. It is amazing how long one person can go on talking and still not be tired of themselves. But, you know what? I am not that kind of person. I am already tired of hearing myself talk for 40 minutes. I've just been, you know what, I might try this again, this sort of mindless talking about what I think. Oh, you know what I should do? I should do a podcast. That's what podcasts are all about. That's what they're like. No, I'm not making fun of podcasts. No, I am making fun of podcasts. Podcasts have deserve to be made fun of. They are a funny thing. You can have podcasts that are, actually have, like, nuanced subjects that are talked about, but usually it's just like a silly thing. It's nothing too important. I do listen to a couple of podcasts, though. But yeah, I'm gonna go back and fix Ribby. So here I just decided to go back, and I was like, okay, well, might as well try to fix this glove. And it did not work that well. Ribby is a big problem for this. His arms and hands are the big problems that I have. And Croaks with his mouth is horrifying. But thank you for watching my video. This was Ribby and Croaks. Tell me what you think about Hildeberg in the comments below. Have a great day. Bye.